Alright, so this is a little short primer on how to do some soldering. Obviously the first thing you need is a soldering iron. I have a Hakko FX600. Great bang for the buck. It's 50 bucks on Amazon or less, and it's got it's got variable temperature control on it. I usually keep mine at 370. I found that that's like for most of the stuff I do, that's fine. If you're doing really big stuff like 10 gauge or 8 gauge, you can go all the way up to 500, and this is in Celsius to get that done, but I found that 370C is fine for most work. The next thing you got to look at is the actual tips. You got two types of tips. You got a conical tip. As you can see, the conical tip, the tips are actually literally shaped like a cone. There's no flatness to them whatsoever. This is a large conical tip. I don't use it hardly any at all. It looks like it's used, but you know, I pretty much gave up on it. This is a super fine point conical tip. This is the only conical tip I ever do use, and that's only for very specialized situations where I'm trying to get down, usually into like a dip, soldering up a dip or something like that. The tips I usually use are chisel tips, and as you can see, a chisel tip, they're flat on the end. This medium is my go-to, and I've used the heck out of it. As you can see, it's pretty black looking. It's because I just use it and use it and use it. But also, you got, when you're doing big wire, you got this big fat one you can use for like 10 or 8 gauge, and just depending on, and this is even a conical tip, believe it or not. If I roll it around, you can sort of see it. But this is used for like circuit boards and SMD and stuff like that, and just various size tips. You want to use a chisel tip whenever you possibly can. Chisel tip is a hell of a lot better for what you're trying to do because it can transfer more heat. I mean, think about it. You got this big wide thing you're transferring heat versus a little tiny point. The point is not going to get you anywhere like this wide tip will. That'll transfer a heck of a lot more heat. Next thing you gotta look at is solder. You want rosin core solder, and you do not want the lead-free stuff. As you can see, I'm using 60% tin, 40% lead here. There's also 6337, and you do want rosin core. And also, if you notice, the diameter on this is 050. That's the biggest you ever want to buy. I also have some 031. Let's see, it's some 031. As you can see the difference in sizes, but the main stuff I use is over here is my 028 or 025, I should say, and that's even finer still. And I got a roll of it, and it stays on my roll, and that's the stuff I use 99% of the time. If you got more work to do, just use more of it. And this is my soldering station here, and I just for convenience sake. Something else that's useful is a pair of helping hands. They really do come in handy, and when I'm showing you how to solder, I'm going to be using these helping hands. And if you want to go hardcore, you can actually use these little heat sinks to keep from burning your wire. This costs like $2, so and it can save from burning your wire. Next, you have to have strippers. You can use either automatic strippers. I've had these things for like 30 years and they still kick ass, and I'll never get rid of them. These are also decent strippers. Don't use those all-in-one stripper crimper things. They suck. And also a pair of decent side cutters. And if you are going to crimp, because sometimes you have to crimp before you solder, use a decent pair of crimpers. This is a long set. They're kind of like Klein's, but they're a rip-off brand of Klein's. As you can see, it's got for both insulated and non-insulated terminals. Plus, it's got cutters on the end, but I never use the cutter end. So that's the stuff you need to get going. Now let's solder up some wire. Alright, now let's get to soldering some wires. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you too, I got all these different kinds of heat shrink tubing that we're going to be using. I picked out a little piece like this. You have So you want it, this is two typical wires that you're going to be soldering together. I think this is like 14, or no, I think this is 16 gauge. It's very typical for what you put in a radio. First thing you do is put your heat shrink over top. Don't ever forget to do that. Then you just take your strippers. That's fine. That's actually more than enough. And rosin. Dip you in what rosin? Actually, that's a little short. A little bit more off of that. That's, well, I went too far, but whatever. Alright, so I'm just using the helping hands here. They're handy to use. It's not absolutely required, but you know, I like it. It just makes the job that much easier. Now you can just slide your wires together like that. And then, like I said, you can use this. It just makes the job a little bit neater. So you have your solder here, and you can put a little solder on the end of your gun if you want to, like that. That'll actually help transfer some heat. And then you just put it on here, and you see how fast that's eating your solder up. And just feed it right on in. Ain't nothing but a thing. And if you notice, my soldering iron is on the back side, and the actual solder itself is on the top. And I'm heating the wire, and the wire is taking the solder. I'm not, you know, from the other back side. And then you can like actually just clean it up a little bit, make it nice and easy. And that's literally all it is to it. You might want to add just a little bit more. Yep. Now that's freaking awesome right there. That is a nice joint, and that is never ever going to come loose. That wire has become one solid piece. And then clean your tip. And that is, I'm pulling it with all my might. Hell, I'll even do it like this. It ain't coming loose ever. And then you just take your piece of heat shrink and you slide it over like that. And you're done, and that's it. That's all it is to it. Thanks for watching.